Sarah, Todd, wonderful to see you. How you doing?
I'm amazing. I'm even better now that I'm talking to you, and we have some exciting news coming up. So, yeah.
The first question we need to ask each other during the times of a pandemic is your family and you safe and healthy, most importantly.
Yes, thankfully. I mean, touch wood, I mean, it's such crazy times, but I'm just happy that everyone around me is safe and sound. And I think more than anything, it's trying to stay mentally strong as well. And I think there's a lot of support that has to go both ways, and just keeping an eye on everyone, and checking in as much as possible is the most important part.
I'm really excited because as a tennis fan and a foodie, this really brings two of my primary passions together. Tell us about the Australian Open Chef Series. What's it all about?
So, I was standing in Mumbai when I got the call to say, do you want to be a part of the chef series? And, it was such an overwhelming thing because I guess, the last 6 years I've been spending so much time in India, and it's become my home. And this was kind of the first really big deal in Australia where I got to showcase the chef that I had become over the last 6 years. So when I started getting involved in the whole process, I mean, I absolutely love tennis, and I'm so proud of this huge Grand Slam that happens in Melbourne every year, which is I've got two homes, bit of Melbourne, bit of India as well. And yeah, I mean, it's just such an incredible platform. It's such an incredible Grand Slam, and they showcase not just the tennis, but it's all about that community feel. It's about food completely. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I've been involved in the whole process for the last, it was about 100 days of planning, if not more. And yeah, and it was just such an incredible experience. And to be the first female lineup as well it was amazing.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting part of Melbourne, isn't it? I mean, Melbourne Park is one side, and across the road, I mean, just in the area is the cricket. So it's just a wonderful community of sports lovers, especially around about Boxing Day, leading into the Aussie Open tennis, the cricket happening and the tennis. It must be really such a wonderful community to be part of.
The whole city just comes alive. And by the way, it sounds like you've been to Melbourne. Have you?
Yeah, a few times, yes. And much as you love India, I love Australia. So
Oh,
never say that about your country.
well, that's the thing. I think, it just, the whole city comes alive, and you can just feel the energy everywhere. Everyone's in a good mood. It's, there's so many little activations, or not little, but activations happening all across the city. And it's not just about the tennis. And that's what I love. Like, even last year, I took my son to the ballpark, and, he got to play a bit of tennis and all these different activities. So it's a real family affair. And I mean, the chef series was just it was amazing because I guess it was the first time showcasing that little touch of Indian cuisine in Australia. And I was a bit nervous, to be honest. And when I was writing the menu, every single dish touched on a different point of India. And the highlight was, showcasing that Australian produce with that Indian touch. And I just, I was quite nervous because, it's obviously, quite a different cooking style that I have grown to love and has become my style. And when I put down that first plate, all that pressure and the lead up to the Australian Open, and, becoming part of that AO family, all kind of come together in this one day. And it was, a really beautiful thing. I had one lady say to me, she's like, I had no real expectations when I came to this dinner, but she's like, you need to call your mum up and tell her that she should be so proud of you. This food is incredible. She's like, this is one of the best meals I've ever had. And I was like, I felt like crying, It's just like, because I guess you put a bit of your heart on the plate, right? And, you know, I mean, the Australian Open is just that family community that, I think we all got so involved, and it was just amazing. So feel very blessed.
Years ago when MasterChef had just happened, one of your first few India trips. I remember having you over in my studio in Parel, in my radio studio, and at that time you told me about your background, and you said you're from a small town, and the pressure cooker situation with so many people and being the center of it, it takes some getting used to. Now I'm going to ask you a question a few years down the line. Do you personally revel in that cooker situation, like situations in the AO series, or would you much rather take your time about things? What is your personality type evolved into?
Well, I mean, the pressure never disappears. I mean, I think if you love what you do, then you're always going to feel that pressure. You're going to always, get those butterflies inside, and it just does not go away. I was like, when is this, is this ever going to get easier? But it doesn't get easier. You get more involved. I'm definitely a bit of a perfectionist, and I think the difference now is that I feel like I've really found my groove. And I think, you always hear people say to you that, find what you're passionate about, find your own style, find your own personality. And I think, in the early days when I started cooking in India, it was really that whole French background coming into play. And then the last kind of, few years, I was like, oh my God, this country is just full of so many different flavors and textures and cooking styles. And I was like, I don't know, it overcome me. And I guess I've found my own little groove now. And I think it's just been so amazing to be able to showcase it on such a big platform like the AO Chef series, and be really proud of it as well. So yeah, I think definitely still get very nervous, definitely still get very anxious. That's not disappeared and very overwhelmed. But I think, it's just focus on what you do. And I think if you do your work well, then the rest kind of, you have to brush it off and just keep moving forward.
It was a packed Aussie Open tennis at the beginning of this year before the pandemic broke out. We had the big three, Novak, Roger, and Rafa Nadal, all making the quarterfinals. Also, some of the younger lot like Zverev and Thiem. And the ladies' side saw Muguruza, Halep, Kenin, Barty, Kvitova, all making the last eight stage. So, who are the tennis players you interacted with, and who actually sampled some of your cooking?
Well, I think there was a bunch of different people that got to sample my cooking. I remember, getting to watch Barty play as well, and that was quite a proud moment to see her out there. And yeah, I mean, it was just such a big opportunity to be able to be a part of everything. And I cooked for a room full of 300 women, which was amazing as well. So it showcased, yeah, again, that same sort of cooking style. So yeah, I had the best time interacting and just watching the tennis and just being a part of the whole experience.
Did you play tennis as a child? And if not, then what other sport did you grow up playing?
I At some point in my life, I played every single sport, and tennis was definitely one of them. I've been getting my son into it, so we've been doing some lessons. I've been pushing him into that side of things, and he's got a good swing, and he really just loves it. So, gosh, I was a complete tomboy growing up, so I've literally played every sport under the sun.
For those of you watching this or listening to this, Sarah Todd is on The Perfect Serve, which premieres on the 10th of October, 5 p.m. onwards on the Sony 6 network. Now, I noticed in the promo to the TV show The Perfect Serve, you've talked about the Pani Puri. Have you managed to eat it off the street here in Mumbai? And what is the twist that you've given to it?
Of course, I have. So I did a pani puri, I did a kakra, which I served a seared wagyu on top of the kakra with a horseradish aioli. I did a madras curry with a seared barramundi. I did a lal mas with a Australian lamb rack. And I mean, everything had a touch of India and a little spin and my touch, I suppose, as well. So yeah, it's been so amazing that this was all captured in a television show, and the fact that the whole team at the Australian Open came over to India with me and managed to film an announcement of the Australian Open in my restaurant in Mumbai, and to have everyone embrace and just see the sorts of things that I've been doing in India, And I think, the great thing about the show is it kind of plucked a couple of us female chefs, Bo from Bangkok, and also Annalise Gregory, who's, from Tasmania in Australia, kind of followed all of our journeys. So, that touch of all the multiculturalism coming back to the Australian Open, which was really beautiful.
So tell me about more items on the menu in the AO Chef series. You haven't told me about what you had for dessert, what you made for dessert.
So I actually made a version of soul cuddy. So it was basically this dome of like a lychee mousse and rose. And then I had liquid nitrogen, and I froze the rose and crushed it on the table in front of everyone. So it was a real masterpiece, I suppose, in the center of the table. So it was, I think I was overwhelmed with how much people loved it. And it's just, it goes to show there's so many incredible flavors in India. It's pretty hard to go wrong.
Yeah. You just mentioned Annalise and Bo, the other two chefs who feature in the AO Chef series. Have you been to their restaurants or eaten their food? What do you think of their art?
Well, I picked away at their food at the Australian Open, but, both of them are so talented. And I think, like to see other women chefs running a kitchen, and, the pressure of being in a kitchen. And obviously, it is more male dominated than female. So to see that line up there, I, felt this kind of, it was an amazing feeling to just have such a strong lineup of female chefs. And the fact that the Australian Open made the decision to, pursue an all-female lineup. So I just think it goes to show how forward-thinking they are, and the fact that they also, one of the first people to have equal prize money for female tennis players and male tennis players, and now to be showcasing females in the food world as well, which is it's so forward thinking and amazing.
Let's talk of your India projects before the pandemic came down, of course. You poured so much of soul and passion into Antares in Goa. Tell me about the process and the hard work and how much you enjoyed that.
So the whole process of building Antares was, I just remember standing on the property the first time, and it was a bare hill, nothing there but, bushland. And I just could see it in my mind. I had this vision of what I wanted it to be, and just the process of being able to execute that and, to have an idea and see it come to fruition is just such an incredible thing. And it was definitely one of the most challenging things I've done in my life, but it also was the most rewarding. I think I've grown so much as, an entrepreneur and as a chef during that whole process. And, it's so close to my heart, and I just feel like I'm landing in my home when I get into Goa and walking in, and it's how many years on now? 6 years on since we opened, and the core team is the same. So, having this family that was there in the beginning of, the building process to now still be in the restaurant is such an incredible thing. I don't know. It's such a beautiful place. It definitely has a soul. And, I've definitely grown a lot as a person through that whole process. So, I just feel so lucky that India has welcomed me, and the team around me has, like we have every year we have a Christmas party, and it's so funny because, well, a staff party, I suppose. And every time I land up in Goa, they're like, "When's our Christmas party?" I'm like, "It's not Christmas." So I don't know. I feel like the staff is my family, and, we're really close. My mum did a secret Santa for all the staff last year. My son jumps in the kitchen with all the boys, and it's just such it's very close to my heart.
And Goa itself, you must enjoy it so much. Isn't this the time of the year that you normally pack your bags and you're here in Goa? What is it that you most love about the place and the people, apart from your restaurant, of course?
It's just there's something about Goa. The second you land, it's like calming, and I think everyone seems to be in a good mood, and I think it's being by the beach, and it's so beautiful and it's relaxing, and I don't know. I fell in love with it in the very early days, and I just, to be honest, also love all the local Goan restaurants as well. So I always go and, have a beautiful Goan thali, and I have my spots that I go to. And yeah, it just feels like part of the, just part of the community. So it's a very special place.
And you must now know the concept of Susegad in Goa, the afternoon siesta.
Oh, I know. Relaxing.
Yeah. Let's talk about the wine rack here in Mumbai. When it first came up, a lot of people were really impressed, and you must have been so happy to to see it kick off and buzzing.
Yeah, it was the whole I think opening in Mumbai was a point where my cooking style started to really get its groove, I would say. And the whole concept behind the restaurant is that Indian food can go with wine. People think that, Indian food is for having a glass of beer or a kingfisher or something, and I just wanted to showcase that, what Indian food can be glamorous, and it can, has ways of being presented that can go in a fine dining restaurant. And that was the point of experimentation, of figuring out which flavors from India and which produce to showcase. And I think that was probably the turning point of my whole cooking style.
Well, looks as though you're having a lot of fun times with your son Phoenix in lockdown. You guys are cooking together. How's his online classes going? I mean, all of us who have children, I have two of them, you're always worried about those online classes and them looking at the screen. So, how's life with the son at home?
Oh, I mean, it's just so beautiful that we get to spend this time together. And I think, the one thing that we can take away is that we're all having that bonding time and, spending a lot of time together. We all have busy lives, and I think we'll never get this time back. And if there's any positive, point that we can take away from this, is just to make the most of that time with family that we have around. But he's definitely getting very itchy feet and wants to meet his friends, that's for sure.
You've also been to parts of India that are not really well known outside of India, Sarah. Assam, for example. Did you enjoy your time there? Tell us a little bit about the Assam experience.
Yeah, I mean, Assam was really beautiful. I went all the way along the Brahmaputra and into, really small rural areas. And it was just so beautiful. I mean, one of the places that I loved the most was the Mission community, where the best part was that their front door is to their kitchen. So you enter the house through the kitchen. And I just remember seeing this setup of, like, two flames on the floor. They've got skewers that are being, like, basically dried out and marinated next to the flame. Then they've got a grate on top that is for smoking the meats, and all this like setup that I'm like, oh my gosh, like chefs dream of this kind of setup in their kitchen, and this is just standard for restaurants in Assam. So yeah, I mean, I had such a beautiful time, very welcomed, and yeah, absolutely loved the experience.
Let's come back to The Perfect Serve, the TV show on the Australian Open Chef series. You did say that there was a camera crew that was following you here in India. I know that you love to spend time on picking your produce even before you get into the kitchen. Did you go around the local bazaars in Mumbai? How was that? And, did they get enough behind the scenes footage? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the greatest thing is highlighting produce, and especially in India, there's so many unique ingredients. And yeah, we went into the bazaar, we went, looking for spices and so much inspiration. And the whole, the fact that they got to follow me through that journey, and the kind of discovery of what my menu would look like was incredible. And yeah, I mean, it was just nice to have them, be such a big part of what I'm doing in India. And yeah, and showcasing that, I suppose. So I just think, yeah, it was really beautiful that they did that.
Indian chefs who you think are doing a great job, and why you admire them.
I think, oh, gosh, ev- I think there's so many chefs that are doing so well. I mean, Saran just got his butter chicken that, is even on the map here in Australia. You've got the guys at Mask that, are really reinventing that modern side of food and cuisine, and highlighting produce like we were just talking about. Manish, who was probably the pioneer of that food movement. And yeah, and I mean, on top of all of that, it's just all the locals, you know, like my favorite thing to do when I go to any city is just to go to a really local haunt and eat that authentic food. You know, in Kashmir, you know, I was eating on the floor. Rajasthan, it was Rajasthan. I was eating with a really local family, eating bajra ki roti, sitting over a flame. You know, these are the moments that really stick in my mind. And I think that they're the ones that have been really life-changing for me, which is, you know, just seeing like the hand that people have, like the food is just so incredible. And like the memories are kind of etched in my mind and so many beautiful flavors.
You're so loved and respected in India, and you've also written this wonderful blog about similarities between Delhi and Mumbai, and you know, Delhi and Melbourne, and Mumbai and Sydney. Now, for people who haven't read that, the Delhi Melbourne comparison or the Mumbai Sydney comparison, talk me through that. And that similarity is why I guess, Sarah, that you're able to adapt so easily to Indian life and culture.
Yeah, you know, I just feel that Mumbai, especially, is that whole, you know, it's quite a transient, it's fun, it's, you know, fast paced, and there's a lot of that media side of things. And then the same as in Sydney. I spent so many years in Sydney. When I just left school, I moved to Sydney for my modeling career, and it was, yeah, like just that fast pace and lots of energy. And then you've got like Mumbai, Delhi, and Melbourne. And I just feel like, you know, I'm now living in Melbourne when I'm in Australia, and it's this kind of definitely like that sense of community. It's family orientated, and the food is insane. So, you know, I've got all my staples that I have in Delhi as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, I've definitely found like a little connection with a lot of places in India for sure.
It's also been a tough phase for Oz, for Australia, with the fires, then followed by the pandemic. Were friends and family affected by the fires? Talk about how the country is recovering from the loss of flora, fauna, property, wildlife.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so horrible. I think you know, back to back having such big you know, issues in Australia. And I think that, but the biggest thing that I noticed when, you know, straight after the fires was the sense of community. And everyone was reaching out and trying to, you know, assist in whatever way possible to help bring back these communities that were, you know, most affected. And yeah, and I think it's that whole like camaraderie. And I think it's one of the reasons why people like MasterChef Australia, because I think there really is that beautiful camaraderie, and it's everyone kind of trying to lift each other up. And I really noticed that when the fires happened. And I felt very proud of, you know, the country and how they all pulled together to really support all of those affected areas.
Your go-to food and dessert, savory as well as dessert, when you're down and out and you want to feel good.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's changing all the time, but probably my two, like the two that I always loved, and still I love them more because I've just been cooking them the last couple of days, but keema and gulab jamun is my two like favorites. And then, but like it's endless now. I just made like this beautiful prawn dish that I had at a friend's house in India, and I have 1,000, like a list of so long. But then I always love my mom's pavlova. Can't go past that.
Yeah, I see a lot of pavlova on your social feed, so I know exactly what you're talking about. What kind of music do you grow up on, and what do you listen to now? I mean, again, in India, we were always influenced by Australian bands. I grew up listening to Jimmy Barnes and Kylie, the Little River Band, In Excess. What was on your playlist when you were growing up, and what is now?
Well, all of the above was definitely on my playlist, and my mom has a record player, and we've just started pulling out all of her old records, which is incredible. And but yeah, I mean, I listen to a little bit of everything, to be honest. I feel like music is a, you know, a form of like vocalizing your emotions, and I think it connects with how you're feeling. So I definitely listen to a bunch of different types of music, and I don't have a set type of music. But yeah, I think music is a very great expression, and it can be quite an emotional tool as well. So I definitely like listening to all different kinds of music.
Let's sign off with your favorite tennis player on the men's side and your favorite tennis player on the women's side, and the reason why you picked them.
I can't choose. This is why you're trying to get me to choose chefs and all of these things. But to be honest, I just think that I'm so proud of Ash Barty, and watching her play. I think that she's done such a fantastic job, and is doing great things. So she's definitely my favorite right now.
Great. Sarah, always a pleasure talking to you. We hope to see you back in your second home, which is India, very, very soon. Lots of love. Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.